This
okay?
conference will now be recorded.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we can see it.
Perfect. Thank you, Narval, for that introduction, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Abha, and I'm a quality group manager at National Instruments. I'm based out of sunny Austin, Texas, and I'm very excited to talk to you today about effective problem solving. So at work, as you all know, we frequently rely on people and work in teams to get issues resolved. This webinar discusses 5 communication hacks to make this process more effective. And my intention today is to provoke thinking about problem solving as we know it and the emphasis on communication. Okay. There's a slight lag. Let me know if it moved to the next slide.
Yep, it did.
Okay, great. All right. So for a typical issue that arises, we turn to our tools, processes, and checklists. We get a team together. You want to make sure the right people are involved. We leverage our arsenal of problem-solving tools to understand the root cause. And then we determine the corrective actions and track them to resolution. Pretty typical, right? This is where I'd like us to pause for a moment. While we have the steps defined and the tools available for root cause problem solving, the communication and behavioral aspects of keeping the team on track and guiding an effective discussion are equally important and often overlooked. So for all our good intentions on getting issues resolved, we may not quite hit the mark. When there's a quality escalation or quality issue, it can be a major intervention at the point where the quality team gets involved. However, we can seize the opportunity to take a positive spin on facilitating the investigation by enlisting a few key communication tips so we can keep calm and communicate. Okay, so this brings me to the first hack, and I'll give you a hint. Never trust anyone who doesn't drink coffee. Any thoughts on what I might be talking about here? Feel free to send your responses in the chat box. All right, it's quiet right now. Maybe more people need coffee before we can do this. So just prep yourself. I'll have more hacks coming in. Okay, I see some messages coming in actually now. Okay, all right, never mind. That's an old message. So we'll get started. Hack number 1 is to build trust. Have you ever been in a meeting where there is a lot of tension in the air and fingers are being pointed? Oh, there I see a few people chimed in. Yes, that's right. There are some biases and prejudices. So you want to try and build trust. And when there are meetings where there's, fingers are being pointed and people are blaming each other, it can get really difficult to get anything productive out of those discussions. We know that the root cause problem solving can get contentious at times, and this is something we want to avoid. What we want to do is build trust proactively while still maintaining a healthy discussion. So there was a 2-year-long Google study done on team performance, and it revealed that the highest performing teams have one factor in common, something known as psychological safety. To quote the Harvard Business Review article, psychological safety is the belief that you won't be punished when you make a mistake. So we want to ensure everyone understands it's a secure environment with the primary intent to learn and correct processes, not to assign blame. Set this expectation up front, build trust, and be the impartial third party to keep the team objective. This sets the foundation for the team and promotes higher quality ideas and engagement. It is especially important for the team to really dig down to the root cause. They are the closest to the issue and have the best insights and ideas. We want to make sure that they are able to bring these up. Remember, you are instrumental in establishing this foundation of trust. Okay? All right. So here's your next hack hint. Coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. What do you think this might be referring to? I'll give you guys a minute. Yes, I see working together, planning, absolutely. Working together being a keyword, collaboration, trust, and communication. You're all on the right track. Yes, storming, forming, all of that. Teamwork, absolutely. Team perseverance. All of these are applicable here. So yeah, it's all about the team, definitely. And now that you have the foundation of trust, you really want to drive engagement with the team. And I say drive because it must be intentional. You want to enlist techniques to encourage collaboration with minimum judgment. You also want to avoid groupthink, where everyone embraces the first few ideas that are voiced. So you want to solicit input from everyone, essentially, and show that it is valued. You want to capture it as well. And you can consider applying some techniques such as brainwriting, round robin brainstorming, rapid ideation, step ladder, and one that's not here is brain netting, essentially doing some sort of brainstorming for virtual teams. You also want to encourage the team to challenge the status quo. Leverage what if type of questions to remove constraints and spur creative thinking. And that is a whole other topic for another time. You want to boost your confidence in the team by reinforcing that they are the experts on their processes and have the best insight. So you're really trying to engage the team right here. Okay, here's your next hint. Ready? Quality is not an act, it is a habit. I'll give you guys a minute. Someone just said it's not a one-time thing. Absolutely. It's involuntary and immersed, habit, consistent practice. It's a way of life. You guys are spot on. So that's the third hack. And it touches on this, but really why I say keep it simple is because that's something that's going to enable this. So this really resonates with me. As we try to roll out initiatives and training across the organization, and as you engage with your team to solve a problem, it is the perfect training opportunity. It is hands-on with a real-life example that people have a vested interest in. People can then apply these concepts in their everyday work. Just imagine how amazing that would be. To enable this, you want to really keep it simple. How many times have you struggled personally with complex instructions and a cumbersome user interface? Think about a clunky software or website you may have used, for example. And that's exactly what we don't want. We want to provide tools and templates that are easy to work with, so the primary focus can be on the information and analysis. Essentially, you want the tools to be so easy that people don't have any barriers to applying them. Also, you want to focus on encouraging small victories to keep the team's momentum going. This will encourage learning and participation. So like I mentioned, this is an unofficial training opportunity that can establish a foundation for the teams to apply these concepts in their day-to-day work. They don't have to wait for a big issue to come up for them to apply any of this. This essentially applies the adult learning principles. You're setting goals for learning, which is solving the problem at hand. You're encouraging active participation. The issue is practical and relevant. And you give a sense of accomplishment with feedback on their progress. So, adult learning principles right there. And demonstrating the value and ease of applying these techniques and thought processes will go a long way to future issue prevention and really to the things that all of you mentioned. This is involuntary and immersed. It is a habit, consistent practice, a way of life. It's not a one-time thing. So thank you for your inputs there. Okay, moving on to the fourth hack. Here's your hint. Individual commitment to a group effort. This is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, a civilization work. I'll give you guys a minute here. Engagement, absolutely. Collaboration, ownership, and contribution, yes. Ownership being a very key word here. Synergy. Team player, yes. Buy-in and accountability. You guys are spot on. So what we're talking about here, really, the key word being here is that commitment, that buy-in and accountability. We are all in it together. That's a really great way to sum it up. So you want to get commitment. And we generally get management commitment to take action when there's a crisis. However, you need to get buy-in from the team as well, that it is important to investigate the issue and also that the corrective actions make sense. We want to make it clear that the team needs to back the ideas and solutions that they've generated 100%. Otherwise, we as a team will not proceed. The team should feel like they are empowered to propose changes to current state and that they will truly be impactful. So in the past, I've approached this by asking the team to prioritize, say, one corrective action that they think will make the biggest difference. We generally walk out rationalizing 2 or 3 corrective actions with the team asking for them versus me pushing for them. So there's your commitment and all the things that all of you mentioned here. All right, everyone, so we are at our final hack. Here is your hint. The art of communication is the language of leadership. This one's a little more tricky than the others, but I think you guys will get it. Yes, absolutely. Communication is the key to success. I'll give you just a few more seconds. Common understanding. Listen and be listened to. Skillful communication. Critical for buy-in. Seek input before decision making. So yes, the foundation of communication and the starting point to do that once we've resolved an issue is kind of, here I'm thinking of the outward communication, which is sharing learning. So a typical root cause process, problem solving process ends with sharing what we learned. And although it's not often viewed as a critical step, the essence of what we learn needs to be communicated. Consider the bigger picture. And let's talk in terms of a bird's eye view. So I found it beneficial to go a step ahead and communicate outside the immediate team that's impacted. So let's take the 100-foot view. Highlight key takeaways with upper management as well as outside the core team. Consider other functional areas that might benefit from what we've learned and implemented. So that's kind of your 100-foot view there. Now let's take the 1,000-foot view. It's important to reveal trends at the organization level and make recommendations on the best path forward. And by trends, I don't just mean looking at the types of issues we encounter, but really digging a level deeper and analyzing themes in root causes and lessons learned. I find this to be a more holistic approach to addressing the largest quality issues in your organization. And this results in larger scale and more impactful issue recurrence prevention. I've approached this in the past by doing a year-end review and analyzing macro trends and themes and issues within my organization, and then making recommendations based on these themes. This approach helps to get more visibility and traction on certain issues that we may otherwise pass off as one-off or a corner case. So when you're seeing it in perspective, you get that visibility and traction versus when you're looking at issues in isolation. It also makes sure we are working on the biggest issues. So this helps to prioritize and focus our efforts. We're limited resources, so that perspective is important. Okay, so we talked about communication outside the team at the org level, and now let's take the 10,000-foot view, looking from even farther away. We want to get better, faster as a company. So thinking on an even broader scale, how do we take lessons we've learned and make it a standard learning for the company? Consider what mechanisms we have to make this knowledge widespread. And that kind of is something that would tie everything together. Okay? So the solution here we talked about, someone even touched on it, communication is key. And to recap the effective problem-solving hacks, we want to build trust. We discussed the importance of trust and the study on psychological safety. We want to engage the whole team. They are the experts, and we want to encourage and leverage their insight. Keep it simple. Make it as easy as possible to focus on the issue versus learning tools. Remember, this is the perfect training opportunity. Get commitment. You want the teams backing 100% on actions you plan to take. And finally, we want to make sure we share findings or learnings at different levels of the organization and take a holistic approach. With that, I'd like to remind everyone to keep calm and communicate as you solve the world's challenges. Thank you for your time and participation. Here is my contact information should you want to reach out to me directly. I am also on LinkedIn. And now I'll hand it back to Norval and we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you, Abha. If anybody does have questions, please do use the chat box. We're done a little bit earlier than we usually are, so we do have plenty of time to take whatever questions you might have. Did you have any other additional comments, Abha?
Not at this time. I'm curious to see what questions people might have. I can I can put a link into the Harvard Business Review article on high-performing teams that touches on psychological safety. That was a very interesting read.
Let's see. You are starting to get questions here. The first one is, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes.
About sending the keep calm and communicate sign.
Sure. It's it'll be in the presentation. Are we going to send out the presentation, Norval?
Yes, if you send me a copy of it, I'll be glad to share that via email here later today with the links to the recording as well as the feedback survey.
Sounds good. I'll do that. What's the next question? Based on your experience, what is a reasonable... Sorry, Narvel, were you saying
Go
something?
Ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Based on your experience, what is a reasonable expectation of how long a team works on a problem? I would say it depends on the complexity of the issue. I would still recommend to try and resolve an issue within no more than 30 to 60 days. I'm like resolve, I mean not containment, but get to the root cause and have corrective actions rolled out. Not more than 30 to 60 days from the time the issue happened. That's kind of the guidance we work with at NI. But as far as how long it takes, yeah, it's the complexity of the issue. So we generally have a series of meetings to try and get through it. Hopefully that helps answer your question, Sandy. I would say a non-complex, a pretty straightforward issue would still take maybe 2-3 hours of time to get through. Okay, can I share some complex examples of this process? Could you elaborate on that, Lee? Complex examples of the process of going through these hacks? I'm not sure I understand fully. Okay, real life example, complex example. Let me see, I'm getting, okay, in practice. Okay, so we've had very complex issues come up at work where it's resulted in major quality issues. And we have management saying, oh, this is terrible, we need to investigate it. And the people on the team are kind of feeling under pressure, a little bit, maybe not victimized, I'm not sure what the right word is, but like their fingers are being pointed at them. And so they don't want to necessarily dig into the issue further. And so they're not committed there. And I've had to go in and say, it's fine. This is what the point of this process is. Root cause problem solving is it's not a bad word. Our intention here is trying to make things better. We want to see what, we might even learn things that we've done well that we want to educate other teams on. But really, we want to make sure we prevent similar issues in the future. It costs a lot of time and money. And so getting that buy-in and then getting a team together and then really facilitating the discussion with them so that we can, using a lot of the brainstorming techniques, facilitating discussion, making sure everyone has a voice and they are able to convey. I really try and get their commitment. I say, what makes the most sense to you guys? You are the experts, and really, try and get their inputs, and then we go from there. And as far as does that help answer your question? I can go on with this example for a while. Sorry, I think I lost the question. Lee, that was your question. And Amanda, yours too. Okay, how the interactions between people work. Yeah, there's that dynamic between people is the most tricky part. People are not always willing to engage in these discussions. And I think you just have to break it down and approach them one-on-one and see what their concerns are and address it on a case-by-case basis. But that's where if they're not willing to investigate the issue, you're not going to get the quality analysis that you would really like to. So hopefully that answers your question, Lee. And as well as Amanda, if you were looking for a more specific real life example, let me know. I don't know that I could go beyond general things because of confidentiality reasons. So I'm going to move on to the next question. How do you deal with the cliques that are within the team? So that's where you want to do the building trust. So the article on psychological safety touches on some things on how you can establish that trust, but a lot of times the teams that come together to solve a problem, it's kind of an ad hoc team that's put together. So you want to be able to build trust quickly. There are some team building exercises you could do. I mean, if you Google it, there are a ton of trust building exercises, and that's really the foundation. You want to also you want to be kind of, I wouldn't say mediator, but you want to be the objective third party when you can see a certain dynamic in the team. You want to make sure no one feels like they are being blamed. You want to shut that down right away. So building the foundation of trust, and then I would say being really taking a really good approach with facilitating. Hopefully that helps answer your question a little bit. Piyush, yes, I will forward the link to the Harvard Business Review article. Let's see. Keith, your question is, what root cause analysis method have you found to be most effective? My, I would say, go-to tools that I've found have been most effective have been the Fishbone Diagram, because it really makes people think about all the aspects of the problem, as opposed to this is it and this is the only aspect that we need to go path that we need to go down. So I think it broadens their view of things with the Fishbone. And then of course the why, because it is so simple. That's a real easy teaching opportunity, so they can, that's one that they can easily apply when they run into issues in their day-to-day life. Hopefully that answers your question, Keith. Okay. Sandy, your question, do you feel a team facilitator is effective? I think it is needed. The effectiveness depends on, I would say, the experience of the facilitator. So I definitely think the person is needed, because these teams are put together and they're trying to follow a process. We have all these tools and we're trying to enable them to solve the process. But without that people element appropriately addressed, they may not go down the right path. And so your job as a facilitator, or the job of a facilitator, is much larger than just a person who's kind of taking notes and saying, this is the guidance. You're much more hands-on in my view. And so I find that it is effective to have a facilitator. Sure. Any other questions or questions that I haven't addressed correctly? I can talk about this for hours. This is a big part of my job here, so let me know if I can help in any way. Okay. This question is, have you ever stepped in on a team that you sensed that trust had diminished midway through the project? Oh, that's a really good question. And how did you help build up the level of trust of the project members? I have not had, I don't think I've encountered that specific situation, but I think my answer would be somewhat the same, is to take a step back, maybe get the team together in a non-threatening environment, happy hour or outside of the workplace, to really try and build up that rapport again before jumping back into the issues, because you want to diffuse that sort of situation. You're not going to get the results that you want otherwise. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, we're doing fine here time-wise. If anybody does have a question that you have in mind that you'd like to ask, feel free to go ahead and do so. We're not pressured for time today, like we sometimes are, so take advantage of it if you can.
I will also say you can feel free to contact me outside if you remember a question later. I'd be happy to get back to you.
And we'll also be posting the recording to YouTube as well. So if you go back and you review this again and you think of another question, I'm sure Abha would be happy to answer it for you later.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess we should go ahead and wrap things up. I think that's probably,
Oh, there we go. Cheryl, what are ideas to keep people engaged and motivated as time goes on in the project? I would say celebrate those small victories as you have them. Seek out their ideas. Show that those are valuable inputs. That's a huge factor for engagement. When there is feedback, implement that. Take it seriously. That's really going to keep the team engaged and motivated. Different things motivate different people. At the very least, the easy thing to do is give feedback on their progress, show that they're doing a good job, and that touches on some of the adult learning principles. But then different things motivate different people, so try and understand what those are, whether it's monetary or recognition, and make sure to give that as well at the appropriate time. Hopefully that answers your question, Cheryl. Okay, next question, Piyush. Can you please talk about the practical themes of learning that you have encountered? You can generalize the specific case. Okay, so some themes that I encountered were, let's see, I'm trying to think of one which won't be incriminating. Let's see. Well, this was, we found that a breakdown in communication between teams was a huge factor when we looked across the biggest issues in the organization. So hardware teams weren't talking to software teams, and test wasn't talking to R&D, and so on. And so that was one theme as an example. Another one was that we didn't quite fully understand the customer use case. So there was a lack of customer insight. And this came up repeatedly. So on a one-off basis, it's really hard to address something like that because you chalk it up to a corner case. But when you see a broader theme like that, then you can actually bubble it up to upper management and make it a bigger initiative. Hopefully that helps, Piyush.
Okay, other questions for Abha? Another one from Piyush.
Okay, what was the specific learning that, so the examples I gave you, one was we didn't fully understand how our customers were using the product. So the developers, at the time that they're making decisions on their project, they may not account for a specific test that is going to be critical to the user's experience. So that was a specific learning, and then that fed back into initiatives in the organization to maybe enhance that sort of learning. And I can't go into more specific details here, but I hope you get the idea. Okay, thanks, Piyush.
Still have time for other questions if you do have them. We've got time. Want to go ahead and wrap things up then, Abha?
Yes, that sounds good.
Oh, Mercy, here's
okay.
another question.
Here we go. Speaking in generalities, have you encountered pushback or lack of engagement from management when you brought up communication issues? I've not experienced pushback or lack of engagement, but that's been one of the harder issues to address because that's going back more to the organizational structure and the culture. Like we are software, we don't want to talk to other teams or so on. So there are some process aspects, but it's really the cultural changes that are underlying many of these issues that it just takes a little more time and effort to implement those. But no pushback yet. They see the value, especially when I can put numbers to it on how much it's cost us to address these sort of issues and how frequently they've come up. So that's where the trending on themes really has value. Does that answer your question? And I guess I would add on if there is pushback, I would just make the case. And it depends on the kind of personality you're talking to and what kind of information they would like to see to get their buy-in. So if they're more data-driven versus non-data, they just want to see the numbers or whatever it is. So I would try and make the case to get their buy-in and not just resign to pushback or lack of engagement. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. Oh, sorry, that was a private message. My bad. Okay. I think we're good, Norval, and I'll be available for questions offline, like I said.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and get things wrapped up here. Any closing comments, Abha, before we wind down for today?
I just want to say, hopefully, you take away some very practical tips with this. I try to keep it short so you can. It's very straightforward, but it's just a quick reminder on what we want to do. And yeah, I wish you luck on your journey to solve the world's challenges with these hacks. Thank you for your time and participation.
And thank you, Abha, for presenting for us today. Thank all of you for joining us today. This is our last webinar for 2018. We will resume with webinars in January, on January 10th, which is a Thursday, with Jim Duarte. More information will be coming out about that. Be checking out my ASQ for details, as well as social media, and we will be sharing the registration information via email as well. So hope everyone has an enjoyable holiday season, and we'll look forward to seeing many of you online after the first of the year. Until then, hope everybody has a great rest of the day, great rest of the year, and we'll see you again in January. Thanks. Bye now.
Thank you.